Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Steve Kranz. I grew up on a farm in rural Iowa. My mom worked for a lawyer who encouraged me to participate in the Legionnaires speech contest. Dave was a decorated World War II veteran, and he knew how much I loved speech, and so he said, participate in the speech contest. I did, and I did very well. In 1986, I was asked to speak at the Memorial Day service in Newhall. After I had been asked to do it, Governor Terry Branstad contacted them and said, I would also like to speak. So I'm then going from an event that was probably going to have maybe 50 people at it to a packed room with several hundred people. After the event, Governor Branstad, who I should say, in 1986, Branstad was by that point, he had been doing a pretty good job as governor. And I say this as a solidly left of center guy, and he's a Republican. After we were done speaking, Governor Branstad pulled me aside into a room where it was just the two of us. And by the way, I am much taller than Governor Branstad. I felt like I was Cousin Greg, if you've watched Succession. Governor Branstad was very nice, and he said, would you like to go out on the campaign with me and introduce me? That would be great if you were willing to do that. And all I could do was stare down at my feet. And he paused. I didn't say a word. He paused and he said, you're a Democrat, aren't you? And I smiled and said, yes, sir, I am. I will always be grateful to Governor Branstad because he didn't in any way tell me you're wrong, you'll see the light someday, or whatever. He was just very nice, very genuinely nice, and said, I wish you well. I've always been incredibly political. Even before that meeting with Governor Branstad, I convinced my parents to participate in the Iowa caucuses. So in 1984, I was very much on Team Hart, Gary Hart, senator from Colorado. And I was too young to participate myself, so I convinced my parents to go, and I went with them. And one of the great things about the caucuses is that you have a chance to speak about your candidate. And I was able to speak on why I thought Gary Hart was the right person and do the weird rules we have in Iowa. I was able to bring some other people to us. And so our tiny little precinct in rural Benton County came out with one delegate for Walter Mondale, the former vice president who became our nominee, and one delegate for Gary Hart. From that point forward, I participated in virtually every caucus that I could, except for the ones that weren't competitive on our side. And for those caucuses, I went and caucused on the Republican side. So in 1996, Bill Clinton was going to be our nominee. No point in even going to the Iowa caucus, no point for a Democrat to go. So I went and I caucused on the Republican side. Actually, that was really, really weird. In 2012, Obama was running for re-election, and I again went and caucused on the Republican side. It's totally legal. I had to change my registration to a Republican. I did. Later, change it back to being a Democrat. Nothing illegal about it. And I did it, and I enjoyed it. In 2012, I actually went for Rick Santorum, who ended up winning the state by just 7 votes. So Rick, if it weren't for me, you'd have won by 6. In the 96 and 2012 caucus, I'll admit I was doing something mischievous in that I was going for the candidate that I thought my side could beat the best. There's no chance Obama was going to lose to Rick Santorum, and so that's why I went for him. In 2024, we Democrats will not have much to do on the Iowa caucus night because Joe Biden has never had a care for Iowa, and I get it. When you come in 5th, I can understand him not liking Iowa. But so a lot of us are going to want to participate on the Republican side, and we will. But I think what's going to be different for us this time is that I'm not going to go for the candidate who I think is the easiest to beat, because if I were doing that, I'd actually be caucusing for Donald Trump. I think he's very easy for our side to beat. I'm going to be caucusing for the guy guy or gal, who actually believes that the election was fair in 2020, that Joe Biden won fairly, that has perhaps something of compassionate conservatives, if you're to do the George W. Bush words. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but whatever candidate that can come closest to what it was to be Ronald Reagan is probably who I would go for. But my point of making this video is that I have to believe I'm not the only Democrat who believes that I am an American first and a member of a political party second. I think there are some forces at work within the Republican Party that could literally rip this country apart. And so I will be happy to go and caucus for a sane, rational Republican. And I guess I just hope over the next couple of months, one of them emerges. My goal is to rally as many Democrats who think like I do, whether we come together as a political action committee, whether we come together as back in the day, Move On was a big thing for us. However we do it, but we have to go where our voices can be heard and make a difference. So, Proud Iowan, signing out.